The laboratory was dark, save for the bluish glow emanating from the machine at its center. A metallic structure, a tangle of wires and tubes connected to a pulsating core that seemed to breathe in irregular intervals. The air smelled metallic, as if oxygen was being sucked into the apparatus. Adrian adjusted the controls, while Beatrice watched, torn between fascination and fear. She knew this went beyond science, but didn't quite understand what. The walls were covered in scribbled notes, mathematical formulas, and drawings that looked more like ancient symbols than rational concepts. The idea had started as a simple theory about parallel dimensions, but now it felt like something far larger than they could control. Adrian turned a knob, and a static hum filled the space. He looked at Beatrice and said, "We're ready." She hesitated, but nodded. The experiment began with a low roar, as if from the walls themselves. The central core spun faster and faster until a blinding light flooded the room. Beatrice raised her arm to shield her eyes, but still saw strange shapes dancing in the brilliance. It was as if the air itself was bending, creating layers where there had been emptiness before. Adrian murmured something about resonant frequencies and gravitational fields, but his voice was barely audible above the machine's thunder. Suddenly, a sharp crack, and everything stopped. The light vanished. The silence returned abruptly. In place of the core, a perfect hole existed, surrounded by a black rim that sucked all light away. Beatrice felt a chilling dread crawl up her spine as she approached. Adrian stood motionless, staring into the void with an unreadable expression. Beatrice reached out, but before her hand touched the rim, something emerged from the portal. A cold wind carried the scent of damp earth and something else that churned her stomach. The sound of dragging footsteps drew closer. Adrian stumbled back, knocking over a chair. Beatrice tried to scream, but her voice failed her as she saw a figure emerge. It was humanoid, but not entirely human. Its skin seemed made of living shadows, flickering like black flames. Empty eyes radiated an ancient, cruel intelligence. The creature tilted its head, assessing them, and took a step forward. Adrian finally yelled for Beatrice to run, but she was paralyzed. The floor trembled, the walls warped. The creature extended a thin hand and touched her shoulder, causing a searing pain. Adrian grabbed a metal tool and hurled it, but the weapon passed through the creature's form like smoke. He cursed and frantically flipped through papers. Beatrice felt the pain lessen, but her vision blurred. Colors faded, edges trembled, as if viewed through boiling water. Dark stains appeared on her hands, spreading like ink. Adrian found a control linked to explosives and yelled for her to move, but Beatrice barely heard him, dominated by thoughts that weren't her own, fragments of strange worlds superimposed on reality. As he pressed the button, the explosion brought down everything, including the portal machine. When the dust settled, the portal remained intact. The creature, now standing at the edge of the black hole, seemed amused. Adrian lay on the floor, groaning with a broken arm. Beatrice knew she needed to act, but her mind oscillated between fear and morbid curiosity. The creature whispered unintelligible words that echoed like ancient memories. Something within her yearned to respond, to approach. Then Beatrice noticed glowing symbols on the floor around the portal, the same drawings from Adrian's notes, now alive. Remembering her theories about geometric patterns stabilizing dimensions, she traced one with a trembling chalk. The creature growled, the walls vibrated. Adrian urged her to hurry, but she was focused. As she completed the symbol, a white light erupted from the portal, pulling them inside. Adrian grabbed her arm, but both knew it was a matter of time. The creature attacked again, but the symbols blazed, throwing it back with a sharp cry. The portal began to close, but something was wrong. The air felt thick, charged. Beatrice saw the dark stains spreading up her neck. A glistening black substance covered her fingers, pulsing like something alive. Adrian paled. This wasn't a side effect, it was something far worse. Beatrice tried to clean the black substance from her clothes, but it wouldn't come off. It seemed to merge with her skin, as if it were now part of her. Adrian looked around, searching for something useful, but the lab was in ruins. Equipment shattered across the floor, smoke filling the air. He grabbed a broken glass and scraped at her arm, but it only spread the substance faster. She screamed in pain, feeling something strange inside her body, like needles moving beneath her skin, rearranging everything. Adrian held her face and said, "Resist, Beatrice," but she barely heard him. Her mind was filled with disconnected images, distorted landscapes and shadowy figures watching from afar. The symbols on the floor still glowed, but dimmer. Beatrice saw the portal wasn't completely gone. A fissure remained, like a scar on reality. Adrian searched the wreckage for something to close the breach, but the fissure began to pulse, emitting a sinister red light. Beatrice felt pressure in her ears, as if something was invading her mind. Adrian yelled for her to move, but her legs were rooted to the ground. Suddenly, the fissure expanded, and a figure emerged. It was smaller, humanoid, with liquid metal skin and white eyes without irises. The creature tilted its head, touched Beatrice's shoulder, and the black substance receded. Adrian tried to help, but was thrown against the wall. The creature emitted a high-pitched sound, knocking Adrian to the ground, who covered his ears, groaning. Beatrice, paralyzed, heard murmurs in an ancient tongue that made sense in her mind, like ancient memories. A sharp pain in her head brought flashes of a forest of glass trees and a red sky with 2 moons. When the pain subsided, the creature vanished, and the fissure began to close on its own. Adrian, on the floor, looked at Beatrice with terror. The black substance was gone, but her skin glowed faintly. She tried to stand, but her legs trembled. Adrian helped her to her feet, urging them to leave, but Beatrice knew something had changed within her. As they left the lab, the walls had bluish cracks, and the air was charged with energy. In the hallway, lights flickered, and the floor vibrated. Descending the stairs, they heard a metallic sound. Insect-like mechanical creatures emerged from the walls. Adrian pushed Beatrice forward, yelling for them to run. They climbed the stairs, but the sound of the creatures grew louder. On the top floor, the door was blocked. Together, they forced their way out onto the roof, where dark clouds swirled and red lightning sliced through the sky. In the middle of the roof, a figure in a dark cloak stood before them. Beatrice felt a sense of familiarity. The figure turned, revealing a face of shattered glass and black eyes that sucked the light. It extended a hand, and Beatrice felt a profound connection. Adrian tried to pull her back, but she broke free. The figure murmured ancient words, and Beatrice saw a floating city with a river of light. Adrian dragged her back, breaking the trance. The figure leaped from the roof, leaving behind a glowing sphere. Beatrice approached. The sphere enveloped her in light, and she vanished. Adrian was alone, unsure what to do. Adrian fell to his knees on the rooftop, breathing raggedly, his body trembling with exhaustion and fear. He looked around, hoping Beatrice would reappear, but there was only the black sky with swirling clouds and red lightning slicing through the air. The glowing sphere that had consumed her floated nearby, pulsing faintly, as if alive. Adrian tried to approach, but an instinct held him back, a warning not to touch it. He knew it wasn't natural, that something was terribly wrong, but he felt a connection to Beatrice he couldn't understand. As he hesitated, the sound of the mechanical creatures pursuing them grew louder. They were rapidly ascending the stairs, and Adrian knew he had seconds. His gaze flickered between the sphere and the edge of the roof, where the mysterious figure had disappeared. Part of him wanted to flee, part to discover what had happened to Beatrice. But an inner voice whispered that it was too late. Still, he wouldn't abandon her. He picked up a piece of metal from the ground and prepared himself. The creatures burst through the door, their metallic bodies gleaming under the lightning, their red eyes burning. Adrian wielded the metal as a weapon, knowing it was useless. They cornered him at the edge. Then, the sphere emitted a shockwave, paralyzing the machines. Adrian ran towards it, clutching the metal as his last hope. As he approached, the sphere expanded, about to explode. He reached out, but Beatrice's voice echoed in his mind, "Return." Another pulse threw him back. As he rose, the sphere had vanished, and the creatures recoiled. Adrian descended the stairs, ignoring the pain. The ground floor was empty, the air heavy. On the street, the world seemed out of focus, people moving like robots. No one noticed him. He wandered through streets with tilted buildings, a dark sky filled with ominous clouds. Caught between realities, unable to advance or retreat. Hours later, or minutes, He sat in an alley, closing his eyes. When he opened them, the sphere floated again. This time, he didn't hesitate. He walked towards it. The sphere pulsed, heat washed over him, and strange memories surfaced. Beatrice on an endless plain, under twinkling stars, her expression unreadable. Before he understood, the sphere pulled him in, like a black hole. When he opened his eyes, he was in a white void. Beatrice was there, but her eyes were no longer human. She smiled. This isn't the end, but the beginning. She pointed to a portal of living light and shadow. We must pass through it together. Adrian nodded, following, knowing there was no turning back.